السلام عليكم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Ramadan Mubarak, everybody. This is the 8th day of Ramadan. Inshallah, everybody's energized to be here with us tonight, and we want to thank you for tuning in with us today. My name is Ma'ad Salama. I'm from AMP, Missouri. I'm honored to host today's event, our first of many series, inshallah, during Ramadan. It's called Ramadan Spotlights by AMP, American Muslims of Palestine. We'll be talking about different issues we are highlighting and about our work in the U.S., AMP doing in the U.S. With us today, two of our best. First, we have Tahir Herzallah, our Associate Director of Outreach and Grassroots Organizing. And then we have Tariq Khalil from AMP Chicago, Education Coordinator and also attorney and activist. They will both be talking about, first we're going to be talking about the boycott campaign AMP is leading. And we'll be also talking about our future events like our Nakba event and the different events. So with no further ado, I'm going to give it away to Tariq, and he'll take it from there.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you, Mu'ath. It's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to have you guys join us, and hopefully we'll continue this on a weekly basis and keep you guys involved, keep you guys informed as to some of the necessary and crucial material that we're putting out. Now, the most crucial material that we have out right now is regarding the date boycott campaign. So if you go to our website, amppalestine.org, you will see that information there, and it's also been published actually on Al Jazeera English, so you can check that out as well. And the essential takeaway from this is for our community and others as well, but especially our community, to make sure that they do not purchase products from particular companies, and we have to make sure that we boycott these companies. Now, the largest of these companies is Hadi Claim. Hadi Claim is the biggest exporter of dates. We have to understand one crucial thing about the Israeli date industry. Approximately 60% of the dates come from settlements. So the settlements which are illegal under international law, a lot of these dates are exported from settlement areas. So the Jordan Valley, especially above all else, the Jordan Valley. Hadi Claim is the largest exporter. You also have Mahadran, you also have Carmel Agrexo, you have Galilee Export, and you have Agri-Food Marketing. These are the 5 major companies that you need to stay away from. In other words, you need to boycott these companies. Make sure you tell your families, make sure you tell your ammos, your khaltos, your brothers, your sisters, your mothers, whoever it is. Make sure you tell them do not purchase dates with these name brands. Now, it can get a little bit tricky if you don't find these name brands actually listed on the box. You may actually find boxes that say made in Palestine as well, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's kosher. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's the date that you want. So when that happens, please let us know, and we'll be able to assist in that regard. But hopefully that instance won't happen as much. But those names, make sure that you absolutely stay away from Israeli dates. Now, when we say Israeli dates, we're not just talking about dates that stem from settlements. We're talking about dates that are made from Israeli companies. So that stretches the whole of historic Palestine. What is modern day Israel, the West Bank, including East Jerusalem, and Gaza as well. But the main focus is the West Bank. And right now you're seeing the names of these dates on your screen right now, if you can see. So these are the 5 major companies they need to stay away from. They have listed more, but the ones that I named are the top 5. So make sure that, as that report says, stand with justice, boycott these dates, boycott Israeli dates, stand with Palestinian rights. This is something that you can absolutely do, all of you, and it's easy. I know everywhere we go to speak on Palestine and on Palestinian rights, we're always confronted with this question: Tariq, what can we do? How can we get involved? What is something that we can do? This is something that you can do. Just don't spend your money on these products. That is something essential, and it will go a long way. Trust me. And I'm gonna have Taher right now speak on the specifics in terms of numbers, statistics, and data, so you can get a clear picture of why you need to boycott these products. Go ahead.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Tariq, for that introduction. You know, what's interesting is when AMP started this date boycott campaign in 2012, now 8 years ago, you know, we were just simply trying to educate our community about what's happening on the ground. You know, we wanted to answer the call for boycott, divestment, and sanctions that was made by Palestinian civil society in 2005 in a really impactful way, in a way that our community can play a big role. And as being, you know, the Muslim community is by far the largest consumer of dates, especially in this month of Ramadan in the United States. And so our purchasing power here is crucial. It's very important, it's particularly in a market where dates are highly competitive. And what I mean by that is that although the United States imports quite a significant amount of dates annually from around the world, the United States also produces its own dates, largely grown in California and Arizona. And so for the longest time, Israel was pretty much the #2 exporter of dates to the United States in the world after Tunisia, you know, exporting millions and millions of pounds of dates annually. In 2015 and 16, according to the data provided by the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Israel exported approximately 23.6 million pounds of dates, estimated in value to be about $12.3 million worth of dates to the United States. And this is in 2015-16 market year. In the 2018-19 market year, just to show you how drastic or how strong of a campaign we've been running over the past few years. In the 2018-19 market year, Israel's exports of dates to the United States dropped from 23 million pounds to 7 million pounds, with an estimated value of $11.9 million. And so it just shows you that you know, the sheer amount of dates being exported to the United States has dropped. There are probably various reasons for that, not just our campaign, you know, to be clear, but it shows that number one, the domestic date production has increased. I know just from the Coachella Valley alone, annually they produce about 71 million pounds of dates that are largely consumed domestically here in the United States, and this is a great development. But also there are other international competitors with Israeli dates, those of Tunisia, Algeria, Pakistan, and Iran, which are also imported into the United States, and those are increasing in their market share. So our campaign is coupled with a lot of the international business dynamics that are occurring, the sort of the economic trends moving in a different direction globally. And this is really important for us to understand that we're part of something bigger that's happening here in a bigger shift. So Israel's date industry really is highly reliant on Europe's market, particularly in France and the UK, as well as Spain and Portugal. And they, you know, this is where they make a lot of their money, especially due to its close proximity. It's a much easier market to penetrate. But here in the United States, alhamdulillah, we've made some tremendous gains in pushing back on this. And whereas where I used to see, you know, in markets, especially here on the East Coast, Israeli dates being, you know, sold in Muslim and halal, you know, grocery stores. Now we're seeing much less of that. I make my rounds in the stores. I've made it recently, and I actually it's hard to find Israeli dates in the markets now. But you know, nevertheless, they're still being sold. I think they're still being sold across the country, particularly in major chains like Costco. As maybe thought I could mention, in Chicago, you can walk into a Costco and find, you know, Jordan River dates and other types of dates. So it's still a problem. You know, this is something that we're still dealing with. But it's important that our community it speaks loudly with one voice, that we will not consume these dates, that we refuse to buy these dates and make it difficult for these markets to sell these dates, and ultimately they will de-shelf them and they will refuse to take them from the distributors. And this is very, very important for us to sort of think about. The other thing I wanted to mention is that, you know, we have all this information available on our website. As you can see here on the bottom, ampalestine.org/project/dates. There you will find our full report on the date industry here in the United States, how the Israeli date industry came to fruition, how it came about over the past 70, 80 years. Its origin story is actually very interesting. You know, we learned through doing our research that a man by the name of Ben Zion Israeli, who basically traveled around different countries in the region in the 1930s and took back essentially the seedlings of date palms and smuggled them illegally out of Iran, Iraq, and Egypt, and essentially established the date palm industry in a settlement in the Kinneret farm in the Jalil region in the 1930s, and it's basically grown to becoming one of Israel's signature industries, agricultural industries at least, and and it's highly exploitative, as Tariq mentioned. They're using exploited Palestinian labor. Most often, they're using stolen Palestinian land, particularly that in the Jordan Valley, and they're also exploiting Palestinian natural resources, such as water, which we know that is very scarce in the area, and they're utilizing it to do all these things. So it's an affront on multiple fronts, and I think it's important for us to identify that. And finally, you could approach your local business if you have an opportunity to participate in this campaign. There's a letter on the website that I mentioned, ampalestine.org/project/dates. You could download the letter, you could modify it if you'd like, and send it to a business in your community that may be selling those dates, or maybe isn't, but maybe doesn't know enough about which dates to purchase and which dates to sell. And so you could submit that letter to them in hopes that they will agree to pledge not to purchase those dates and sell those dates. And finally, you could also download and print a poster that we are using, that we're sticking up at various stores, posting at different stores across the country, particularly in New Jersey, where we've seen a major success in this campaign. And the community can be aware of which brands not to buy, as they walk into the store, or maybe something that you could distribute through social media or through your messenger apps to different communities and community chat groups, so people are aware of which days to buy, especially in this blessed month. So those are the resources available to you that we've made available to identify brands, companies that we have or that we are targeting in specific. There may be other companies that are out there, but these are the companies that we know for sure are entering or selling dates in the United States, or are being marketed as such in the United States, and that is after the research that we've done over the span of the past few years as we've dealt with this campaign. So, this is where we are at the moment. And if you go on the website, you'll also be able to take the pledge. You can take the pledge, join hundreds of other people across the country who have taken the pledge not to buy Israeli dates, and this is actually very important for us to increase that number of people to the thousands. So that way, we can go to businesses and we can say thousands of people have signed this pledge not to buy Israeli dates. This is an opportunity for you to tell the distributors that we will not take these dates, and this is actually a very, very important tool for us to use as well. So I hope you could visit the website, ampalestine.org/project/dates, and inshallah, so you can take the pledge and utilize the resources that we have made available. And you can also find the video that you're watching now also on there, where you'll be able to share that and spread it as well.
And I want to say something. Thank you, Tahad, for that. By the way, I want to say something directly to my community, the Bridgeview, Oaklawn area. The Pete's Fresh Market on Harlem. They're selling a lot of dates. I didn't see one that you can classify as Israeli dates. So if you go there and shop a lot, I think you'll be in fine shape there. But in Costco, the Mahadran brand that I was telling you about. Mahadran brand is sold in Costco, so be careful when you go to Costco. Now they sell other dates, okay? And don't be confused if you see Majul on there. That's just the queen of dates. That's the most popular kind of date. It doesn't mean that all of them are good. No, there are some that must be boycotted. Mahadran is one of those brands. So I want to make sure that you keep that in mind. And also, I want to respond to a question that I wouldn't get from Palestinians per se, but that I would get from non-Palestinians with respect to why we don't make a distinction between Israel proper, or what we know as 48 Palestine, or the area within the armistice lines, and the Gaza Strip in the West Bank. The reason why we don't make a distinction is because while the West Bank under international law is considered under belligerent military occupation, there's still an apartheid structure that operates throughout the entire area. So from the Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea, you have an apartheid apparatus operating. So when you are boycotting, you're not just boycotting a military occupation. You're boycotting a settler colonial enterprise. You're boycotting the apartheid apparatus that stretches through the entirety of historic Palestine, which includes what is modern day Israel today. That's why we do not make a distinction between the Galilee, between Haifa, Yafa, or between Jordan Valley and other areas. It's all the same. It's the same oppressor. It is the same dispossessor. It is the same colonizer.
Jazakallah khair, Tahir. And Tariq, both of you. Tahir and Tariq. Jazakumullah khair. Anybody have a question? You can always comment. We'll get to your questions on your comments. By the way, we are broadcasting to 5 of our pages. So whichever page you're watching from, you can comment under your page and we can get your question. Next, go ahead.
We're also building up for our Nakba event. We don't have a specific date set yet, but obviously it's coming, and we know the Nakba. What's that?
No, actually, we do have a date set. It will be May 15th at 10 p.m. inshallah.
Okay.
And this is something to look out for. We're going to do a major Nakba commemoration webinar on May 15th, on the day of Nakba, at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, which makes it 7 p.m. Pacific. Please stay on the lookout for that. We're going to be advertising that heavily in the next couple weeks as we prepare to commemorate the Nakba. We will be having speakers from around the world and from here domestically, talking about the impact of the Nakba and what it means to us today. Actually, one thing important to note is that a lot of people think the Nakba is a thing of the past. However, it's clear that the Nakba continues today. The ethnic cleansing of Palestine never stopped, never ended. And this is something that we are contending with as Palestinians in diaspora here in the United States, but also Palestinians on the ground on a daily basis. So it's very important for us to contextualize it in the modern sense, that it's an act that is being perpetuated currently, not something of the past. However, it is important to understand the history and how the original ethnic cleansing campaign of 1947 to 1949 was conducted, and we hope we have a very good insightful discussion about that. And also another thing to note, Mu'adh and Tariq, is that we do need the support of the community to continue doing this work. Without the community support, essential work like this, to continue advocating for Palestine, to continue speaking up for Palestinian human rights, justice for Palestine in our communities, but also in the halls of power, in the halls of Congress, and municipalities and state legislatures across the country. The organization's work has expanded dramatically over the past 5 years, particularly since we opened our office in Washington, D.C. And I think this is a very important opportunity for us as a community to step in and say, you know what, we're not going to let the pandemic, we're not going to let a global crisis stop our advocacy for Palestine, because for us, Palestine means more. Palestine connects us beyond the quarantine. And that's why we have a launch group campaign, a crowd funding campaign that we have initiated, that we encourage all to donate, especially in this blessed month of Ramadan. We have an ambition, a goal to reach $50,000 on this crowd funding campaign. We've already reached $25,000 so far, so we need to finish that. So please visit our link. It's on the bottom there. It's scrolling through launchgood.com/Palestine connects us. Please don't forget about us in your zakat. We are also zakat eligible, and your sadaqah, and pray for us. So this is a very difficult time for many Muslim organizations, as we've lost a crucial opportunity to fundraise during Ramadan in our face-to-face, Taraweeh fundraisers and mosque fundraisers across the country. So, we do need the support online as much as possible, so that we can continue operation, so that we can continue doing this work for the sake of this blessed and noble cause.
And we've also been putting out infographics these past few weeks to show the public that this was an incremental process that eventually led to the climax that we call Nakba, or in Arabic, catastrophe. So you've had various villages and cities that were already ethnically cleansed before May 15th, and we actually put out the infographics on those. So we had a webinar on April 10th commemorating the Deir Yassin massacre. Deir Yassin was a village near Jerusalem that was ethnically cleansed. The population there were massacred, and that happened a little over a month before the Nakba. Then you also had the mixed town of Haifa, Jaffa, Tiberias. You also had Safad. So you've had a lot of villages and mixed towns and cities that have been ethnically cleansed, and over 300,000 Palestinians were dispossessed from their homes before the start of the Nakba. So we have to understand that this Zionist project began way back when, and it incrementally led to that climax, and we are living in that climax right now. That is why we refer to it as an ongoing Nakba, a Nakba that began in 48 and continues in 2020. And our job is to put that to an end, and that is the purpose for why we're doing what we're doing.
Jazakumullah khair, both of you. And I just want to add to Tahir's point about this pandemic and the importance of our work. When the pandemic hit, everybody's life was changed, right? Our life was changed. The way we do work, the way we meet, the way we shake hands, or even wouldn't shake hands anymore. That everything changed. The only thing that didn't change, the suffering of Palestinians under occupation. The checkpoints haven't changed. They're going to hospitals. Their access to clean water, that haven't changed. And so our organization is very important these days to speak up on their behalf, because nobody else does. See what I'm saying? And that's why we encourage people to support our work, because it's still important through this time. It's probably more important through this time than before.
And then I would add actually that Israel's draconian measures and authoritarianism and occupation has even gotten more vicious. We've seen that Israel has denied Palestinians testing kits. They've denied them access to healthcare. It's a very vicious and ridiculously brutal response to this pandemic. Rather than taking this as an opportunity to extend a hand, a goodwill gesture, Israel has actually solidified its occupation in apartheid, and now it's talking about annexation of the entire West Bank. Instead of using this as an opportunity to show humanity, Israel has actually done the opposite. And it's very important for us to realize that like you said, Mu'adh, when this pandemic hit, the whole world closed and stopped, except the occupation. The occupation continued, the occupation intensified, and now we're seeing Israel use this as an excuse to actually institute new measures and new securitization efforts that would further deny Palestinians their human rights. And this is very dangerous. And if it's not stopped and if it's not spoken out against, and if our work stops now because of this pandemic, then the catastrophe that will ensue will be far greater than maybe what we witnessed in the Nakba in 1948. And this is something that we need to be made aware of, and this is something that I think we need to take very seriously.
I think it's Nakba is still ongoing, just like Tariq always says. It's an ongoing event. I don't think it just happened and it's done.
No, absolutely not. That is one of the most crucial points that we must emphasize whenever we discuss on Nakba. It did not just happen in a vacuum. May 15th didn't just come and then Palestinians just left. It was a building process. The Zionist project really began in 1881. If you're going to pick an exact starting point, that would be an essential starting point. And then through that colonization, slowly building up to May 15th, 1948. Because as we all know, the ownership of property was overwhelmingly on the side of the Palestinians. The population was overwhelmingly on the side of the Palestinians. So when Israel finally was established, they conquered 80% of historic Palestine, and what was left was the remaining 22%, and 700,000 Palestinians were dispossessed, and the new founded state of Israel had a 28% Palestinian minority. And we have to understand that today the ethnic cleansing is continuing in an incremental capacity instead of en masse like it happened in 1948. So slowly but surely taking the land away, building settlements, building apartheid rows, building an apartheid wall, taking away the rights, denying the rights to be implemented that are guaranteed under international law. So now you have this entrenched occupation in the West Bank, and as Taha had mentioned earlier, the now annexation of what is known as Area C, which encompasses approximately 60% of the West Bank. So why is it that now this talk about full annexation, it's not full annexation of the people, it's full annexation of the territory. So the people will be denied their human rights. They will be denied their political rights. And yet Israel wants to claim that it is the bastion of democracy in the Middle East, the only democracy in the Middle East, and it shares American values. Well, in America today, on paper, everyone who's an American is equal under the law. On paper, at least on paper, that's what it is. In Israel, on paper, that's not the case. So as Americans, we should feel insulted that they can get away with this argument. No matter where you stand on this topic, the fact that they can make that claim should make every American upset. And it should insult every American, because we cherish democracy, we embrace democracy. Israel does not. And Americans need to understand that.
Correct. And you mentioned Territory C. Isn't that where, I recently visited Palestine, and I passed by Territory C, where it has all the date form. And I guess that's what they're using, all the date form.
The Jordan Valley, mainly.
Jordan Valley, mainly. And that's what they're using. Let me just correct something I just said. I didn't mean to say the online organization. We are one of the few organizations that speak up on behalf of Palestinians in the U.S. So I just wanted to correct that. Tariq, somebody commented here. It says, please comment on Sadaf dates and products. Do you have something about that? Anything about Sadaf dates and products?
From what I know, Sadaf is an American company, operates out of Los Angeles. However, its owners are very Zionist, unfortunately, and its leadership. There's a video circulating online from a couple of years back of a representative of the company talking about how they support Israel, etc. I've never verified the video myself. I've never gone through and done the research, but this is all I know about the company. I haven't really delved much deeper. Maybe I thought I might know a little bit about them, but from what I know, they're not an Israeli company. They're an American company,
right?
That operates in the U.S. So it's a little bit of a different dynamic that we have to.
Yeah, we have to. I mean, when we pick out particular organizations, we're picking out companies that profit off of Palestinian suffering. If we're gonna draw a link, if we're gonna trace what it is that companies do, that's the traceability element that we take into account. Where does the money come from? Where is the company located? And that's how we make our decisions as to what companies we should actually boycott. So that's why these companies fall into that. Settlement companies, if not in settlements, they're using Palestinian labor to do it, made in Israel. All of that fits the bill in terms of what we put up on our website.
Jazakumullah khair. Tahir, do you want to cover our next event? You said May 15th. Do we want to talk more about it, or do you want to
just keep it on your calendar? It's going to be May 15th at 10 p.m. Eastern. We're going to do it after iftar and Isha for most people. So if you're on the West Coast, it'll be around 7 p.m. for you. So you'll be preparing for iftar. But you know what? It's the Nakba commemoration. This is a very integral moment in our history as Palestinians. We need to really take the moment and commemorate it. This year it happens to be during Ramadan, and you know what? I think if I'm not mistaken, maybe Tariq could correct me, that when the Nakba happened in 1948, I believe it was also Ramadan at that time. So people were fasting while being expelled from their homes, and so this is really it connects us in a way that we haven't been connected in decades. I hope that we have an opportunity to really commemorate this historic moment and think about what we can do here in the United States in response to what Israel has been doing to our people for 75 years.
Imagine, you just said it. I didn't know that it was during Ramadan back in 1948.
Yeah.
I just thought about my grandfather, and because my grandfather was originally from Deir Aban, and it's a depopulated village. And he told me they just picked up and left because they were chased out, I guess. And imagine that walking from Palestine to Jordan through the mountains, and if you're like on top of them, and you just
people swam. Some people, there's stories of people swimming from Haifa and Yafa. Some people took boats to Lebanon. It's just crazy. The stories, which I hope we'll be able to cover in the next few weeks. And look out for our social media posts. Tariq and the team have been doing a great job in keeping us informed about the major incidents. Today they just posted about Safad as an example. And keep an eye out on the social media posts, and inshallah we'll see you on May 15th at 10 p.m. Eastern time on our webinar live here on Facebook, and we hope you also continue to support us through the launchgood.com/Palestine Connects Us link.
Thank you, Tar. And let's see if we have any more.
I did want to emphasize a point here. There's a comment here that talked about my comment on saying that on paper we have equal rights. The reason why I say that is because we have to be clear what I mean when I say that. Now, there are minorities here that are treated in practice differently than other groups. So, that's why we have Black Lives Matter. That's why we have organizations that fight for minority rights. So there are marginalized groups in the United States. So to say that there are no oppressed groups would be incorrect. So I qualify that by saying, at least constitutionally, under our laws that exist, that we are, as Americans, equal under the law. In Israel, however, under the law, a particular nationality is privileged over another. So if you're a Palestinian living in Israel, if you're a Palestinian in the West Bank, you are a Palestinian that is inferior under the law to your Jewish neighbors. So not only in practice, which is even worse, but even under the letter of the law, that is a fact as well. So in the West Bank right now, you have over 500,000 settlers. These Jewish settlers are governed by civil law, whereas the Palestinians that make up over 4 million that live in the West Bank, they are governed under military law. So they're experiencing discrimination based on the fact that they are not Jewish. So in America, you don't have that, obviously. So Israel claims to be the beacon of democracy in the Middle East and the only democracy in the Middle East, and claims to share our values. Well, in this sense, they do not share our values at all. So that's the reason why I made the point the way that I did.
And for people who say that Palestinians are much better in Israel than anywhere else, that's not true. I experienced that myself. I didn't even live in Palestine for the first time ever. I went to Palestine as an American, and I was forced to use different roads than the Israelis. I was stopped every corner of the streets because of the way I looked, asking for documentation, and it's just you can feel the racism there. So they're not equal there. I experienced it myself.
Right. I mean, in Israel, rights flow from your nationality, not from your citizenship. So one of the major Zionist talking points is that, well, the Arabs of Israel, notice how they call them Arabs. They refer to them in their ethnic origin, not their nationalistic origin, Palestinians. But leaving that aside, it is national rights that really govern what is now modern day Israel, not your citizenship. In America, if you're Chinese American, if you're Polish American, if you're Egyptian American, based on our laws, you are an American and you are equal to your American brother or sister. But in Israel, if you are a Palestinian and your parents have lived there for generations, and you've had your grandfather live there, your great grandfather, and so on and so on and so on, but the fact that you're Palestinian, you're of the wrong nationality. So it is nationality that really defines your rights, not your citizenship. That's a very legal, technical difference, and Israel obviously does not point that out. I point that out, and we need to point that out to show the hypocrisy and to show the apartheid nature of the state of Israel. It is not a democracy. It is an apartheid state.
It is not. It is not, and that's why American Muslims for Palestine's work is important to show this, and to tell the other side of the story, because the only side is shown in the media is the democracy that they are talking about. So now somebody says talk about Gaza, and Gaza alone needs a whole episode, I guess, because
I'll say in 20 seconds. People always say Al-Quds, Jerusalem, is the heart of Palestine. Gaza is the soul of Palestine.
Well, you put it in.
If I'm gonna say it quickly, there we go. And Tahir can vouch for that.
Well, that's it. You told me.
Can't be said better than that.
Yeah. you just made his day, I guess.
In my day, believe me.
Yeah. People in Gaza are still suffering. What is it? 97% of the water is undrinkable. They say it. What is it? 97% of the water in Gaza is non-drinkable water. So
I mean, Gaza itself is considered uninhabitable already. But like you said, it's a point for another discussion.
Yeah.
Today we wanted to focus on the date boycott and make sure that people are aware of the companies that we're trying to target. And also to make sure to show up on May 15th for the webinar. And hopefully we'll have more of these webinars. We've been having a lot over the past month or two, and we're hoping to do a lot more, and with a special focus on Gaza maybe in the future as well.
Inshallah, and just make sure you check the label. Check your label before you buy your dates. I'm sure a lot of people bought their dates already, but if you still got to stock up again, check your label. And this is an ongoing effort. Some people talked about the media, and since we mentioned the media, now what do you guys think about the Arab media now, the shift in the Arab media? Did you guys notice that? And I don't know if we can talk about it or not, but it's just a lot of people asking us about it, and the shift that's taken against the Palestinians. Is there an explanation for it, do you think, or what do you, is it like the timing is right for them?
I mean, I think maybe Dr. Osama would be more appropriate to discuss this, since he's more
he follows that
tuned, and he follows it more closely. But it's clear that a lot of the state-run news media channels are now being used as a platform to justify the foreign policy of those particular countries, particularly in the Gulf. Trying to build popular momentum on the grassroots level and the societal level to support normalization with Israel. This is very troubling to see. But what's interesting is also the pushback. There's a lot of pushback I've seen on social media and even within media itself, Arab media, against these efforts. And it's interesting to see the drastic difference between certain state-run medias and others in the way they approach this issue. Some are very critical of normalization, while others are becoming, unfortunately, more supportive of it. In the past, it used to be like where if someone, if you watch old Egyptian movies and stuff, if there's a protagonist on the film or on the show, or if there's an antagonist supporting normalization, there's always somebody else with an opposing view on the show, right? To oppose the view immediately. But in this situation, what we're seeing now is that you have two individuals talking about normalizing a relationship with Israel openly, and they're both in agreement essentially about the issue. Before, at least you would find an opposing view on the actual show, whereas in this case now it's becoming almost an issue of consensus. And that's very troubling, but also indicative and really symptomatic of the way those governments are shifting, which is very problematic.
I mean, I can talk about just the media generally. If your starting point is not the right starting point, your answer is going to be wrong, most likely. So if you don't characterize the conflict as one between an occupier and an occupied, an oppressor and an oppressed, the answer will flow from that mentality. So if you don't conceptualize it in those terms, you'll never be able to give the proper answer to any question related to that topic. So if you don't have people that agree on that, you're really not going to have a fruitful discussion. It's going to be just a shouting match between two people. So when you have two Zionists that talk about it, they're already in agreement. It's okay to take their land. It's just one side is saying, I want to take more. The other side is saying, no, we've taken enough. Give them whatever's left. That's really the debate at that point. Well, you're not talking about the fundamental issue at that point. You're just talking about how much more should we consolidate? How much more should we grab? What should we do with the refugees? Should we keep them where they're at? Should we give them money? You'll never hear them talk about repatriation. Having them return to their homes. That's because that will destroy the Zionist endeavor. So when you conceptualize it in an improper way, the answer will always be incorrect. So you need somebody that can speak to these issues with the proper conceptualization of the conflict itself, and that just doesn't exist in our American media. And Osama can talk more about the Arab media.
Yeah, Jazakumullah khair. I don't know if anything else we need to cover. This was just
one quick point. Yesterday, the International Criminal Court's chamber is coming. Now, the International Criminal Court as a whole is coming much closer to investigating Israeli war crimes against Palestinians in the West Bank and Gaza. So slowly. It's a slow but sure process, and hopefully, pretty soon we'll have full-on investigation into Israeli war crimes. You see, our activism works. Our activism will push institutions to act. So we have to stay involved and stay active and push and demand for Palestinian rights.
Jazakallah. Another thing we were disappointed of over here at the local level, talking about the boycott movement with Missouri lawmakers. I guess they decided the first thing to talk about and to cover was the anti-BDS bill, which passed the Senate yesterday, which is very disappointed yesterday. It shows you, how our government works. I guess Missourians not more important than Israel to our lawmakers, I guess, and we tried, but inshallah we still fighting.
Thank you guys. Thank you so much for your great work and input, and I hope that we can continue this work. Honestly, blessed to be working for such a noble and just cause. A lot of people are having a wake-up call right now with this pandemic, realizing that what they were doing in their life was meaningless until now, and now they're realizing that they need to do something more meaningful for this world. And alhamdulillah, we're in a position where we are really doing good work, and now we're just fighting to keep doing it.
Yeah, Jazakumullah khair, and please support our work. No matter which chapter you're watching from, you can just click on the link and donate. Like Tahir said, we are zakat eligible. We are your donations tax deductible, and it's Ramadan.
Speaking of donations, AMP Chicago has been donating dates to our local pastries. So that's some of the things that we can contribute as an organization.
MashaAllah, Jazakumullah khair. So we are from different states. We are still doing the work under. I know everybody's busy with their own life, but we still know how important this work is. So Jazakumullah khair. Tahir, it was an honor. Tariq, it was an honor to host you guys. It's always nice to work with you. Thank you very much, and thanks everybody for watching. And please share the video. Follow us on Facebook. Whichever state you're from, if we have a chapter, follow us on your chapter page or the national page, and we also on YouTube, we also on Twitter and Instagram. Jazakumullah khair. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Boycott.
Check the label.